This is my first video after being away for a couple of weeks, and there's been quite a lot going on that I think might be important for us to kind of talk about a little bit. Welcome. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thank you for joining me. So, there have been some different things going on that have quite a bit of potential to be impactful. In particular, today, what I want to predominantly address is the CNN reporting about the motherless website, which is not what it sounds like, but it's about the Rape Academy. So, first of all, just kind of check in with yourself. How are you doing? This may not be the time for you to watch this video, so just honor that if that is the case for you. Come back to it later. Some healthy distraction is always a good way of coping and managing. So I'm not going to talk really a lot about what's in it or really much at all about what's actually in the reporting. You've probably heard or read yourself what it actually is. I do want to talk about the impact because there's a lot that's been going on that is quite impactful generally, but particularly for people that have experienced sexual trauma, childhood trauma. So you have heard me talk about vulnerability and how the more vulnerable things that are going on, the more vulnerable we feel overall. So this is a reminder, or maybe if this is brand new to you, it's important to remember this because what happens so often, and I have heard people say this already about this particular thing, and I hear it all the time with my client work, people will say to themselves, well, my life is pretty good, so I shouldn't be affected by this. Or that isn't my experience, so it shouldn't impact me. Or what is wrong with me? Why can't I just get on with things? Or even, I don't know what's going on, but I am really struggling. So it is really important to presence the reality of what this means. So already over the last couple of years, a little more than that now, I have talked about how we are being impacted by things happening around us currently that sometimes we may not even necessarily recognize. And part of that lack of awareness is because it may not seem like it's necessarily all that relevant to us. And even if it does feel relevant, it may not seem like it's having much of an impact. And so, when you've experienced sexual trauma, either as a child or as an adult, and especially if it was as a child over time, there is already kind of this inherent layer of vulnerability. So you've heard me talk about vulnerability and how even like not getting enough sleep can make us vulnerable. And then if there's anything else stressful that's going on, both of those pieces of vulnerability are compounded, right? It's not just that I'm feeling a little vulnerable because of this, and I'm feeling a little vulnerable because of this. It's each of these things, even if they seem pretty small or insignificant, both of them are compounded in terms of the intensity or the level of vulnerability that we are living in at any given moment. So as a survivor, we already have this kind of inherent layer of vulnerability that is there. And in all reality, for a survivor of trauma who is still on a healing journey, there are likely at least a few layers of vulnerability on any given day, at least a few. When you add on top of that, not sleeping well, not feeling well, having stressful things going on in your life that you're having to deal with, trying to set boundaries, trying to take care of kids or a partner or yourself, like there's so many different things that can create more vulnerability. And again, every single piece of stress or challenge, memory, fear, whatever it is another layer of vulnerability that is compounded exponentially. So the reality for most of us right now is that we're vulnerable. We are incredibly vulnerable. We're very raw, so to speak. And so there are different things that have been going on over the last couple of years that are very specific to being a survivor of trauma that have continued to add to that vulnerability. And I've talked about them before, right? The fact that we have family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, people that provide services to us, like our doctor or our hairstylist, that look at a sexual perpetrator as not being a big deal, not being a deal breaker, feeling like that person deserves to be in position of leadership. We have the Epstein files, that is a huge reminder of the depravity of people around us. Of course, not all people, but that there are those people that exist in our world. And while that is particular to very wealthy, connected people, I've mentioned before that it's not always wealthy, connected people. Oftentimes it is, just because it affords them the ability to hide more things, to gather in different places and that sort of thing. But predominantly what it reminds us of is that it exists, that people are not held accountable, that survivors are blamed and dismissed, and most of us know what that feels like. There's a very familiarity to that, even if our experience might be quite different. And there's always stories in the news about assault. And now we have this reporting about partners, male partners, who are sharing their own experiences of drugging and then assaulting their partners, whether it's a girlfriend, a date, or a wife, or a long-term committed partner. People who are going there to get ideas, to share stories, to give advice on how much to drug or what drug to use or where to buy it. And we ship worldwide. And even if your story is not similar to that, the level of reach, the level of betrayal within that, the reality of what that means for the trust that we put into people that we love, who are supposed to love us and keep us safe to the best of their ability, that they are the people who are doing this. That level of betrayal is right up there with a parent abusing you or a member of your church abusing you. All betrayal is horrific, and all sexual trauma is a betrayal. But the nature of the relationship compounds the betrayal and the impact of that betrayal. So for anybody, even if it's not something that you've experienced, the implications of what it means to recognize this and to be hearing about it over and over again is so incredibly significant. If you aren't familiar with the reporting, I will share a link, but I already kind of explained a little bit what's happening in this website. But one of the things that people keep talking about is that this website had 62 million visits in a month. And if you look at pornography websites and the amount of visits they have, and I'm not necessarily comparing that website to general pornography, though there is a connection, not causation, but this is a much bigger issue than this one particular website And I'm not going to get into all of that because it will take me off on something else. This is not the first time I'm trying to record this video, because I do keep kind of going off on some other things, because there is so much that is a part of this. But I'm trying to focus on just making sure that you're taking care of yourself, and bringing awareness to yourself in terms of how you are being impacted by this. So whether you are somebody who is trying to avoid it, whether you're somebody who is directly, where it feels directly relatable or not, whether you're somebody who is immersing yourself in it, there is no way that we are not impacted by this, in part because there's so much commentary happening around us. So we're kind of constantly hearing about it. But even if you've just heard about it once, the fact that these are people who are supposed to love you and betraying you at such a significant level and sharing that information with other people, it's incredibly profound. And that betrayal, aside from just the absolute betrayal of it and what that means, it's another reminder of the erosion of trust, of trying to learn to trust in a healthy way. And you should be able to absolutely trust your partner. Now, I know that there are a lot of people, even people watching this, who are in relationships in which you don't trust your partner. Maybe specifically in that way, or maybe in some other ways. But that type of betrayal can feel even more significant. Not that I'm not suggesting that it is absolutely more significant, but the feeling, the experience of it can be, because of the level of vulnerability in terms of being asleep and not knowing what's going on, not having a voice. The fact that you've trusted this person, which you should be able to do, the impact that that has on our sense of being able to trust others and ourselves is incredible. So giving yourself the opportunity to really check in and become aware of how it is impacting you. And you might feel like it's not impacting you, like you feel numb about it, or you're not really thinking about it. And that may be true, but the impact is still there. Just like so many people have believed that they're not impacted by their childhood trauma because they don't think about it, because it doesn't seem like they're affected by it. But it had a significant impact. And when you are a survivor of childhood trauma, as I said, that vulnerability is already there. Hearing conversations about it adds another layer. If it brings up anything for you, conscious or not, more layers. And it can be bringing up different things, which is its own layer. So really checking in with yourself, just noticing what feels present. What do you need? What do you need? And allow that need to be there. Even if that need cannot be met in that moment or in that day or even in that week, the need is still there, and it's important to recognize it and to honor the fact that it is there. So often we tell ourselves that if a need cannot be met, or if it cannot be met easily, or if it cannot be met without somehow taking something from somebody else. And when I say taking, I mean that not literally, but how we perceive that. Then it's not okay for us to have that need. And that is so not true. Even if nobody is available to meet that need, even if nobody can meet that need, even if it's a need that we need to meet on our own and we're not able to do that yet, it doesn't mean that that need is not valid. And so often survivors have such a hard time with that. So whether it's a need, an actual need, or it feels more like a desire for something, being able to honor those needs, those desires, is such an important part of healing. And this is an opportunity to practice that. It's unfortunate that we are in this time and we shouldn't have to be practicing that in this way, but it is an opportunity to practice connecting within yourself, noticing what is present, honoring the fact that it is present, and then if possible, doing what we can to have those needs met. So please take some time every day, if at all possible. And I'm going to push a little here because I do think that unless you're under a very rare circumstance, all of us have the ability to take a moment within a day. Literally, it could be seconds to check in with ourselves and notice what is present. Now, obviously, if there's a lot going on for you, more than a few seconds would certainly be beneficial. And I will fully acknowledge that if there is a lot going on, if you're in the middle of a crisis, it may seem that that is not helpful. So honor that, but also honor that there are some things, even in the middle of a crisis, that you can do that can be supportive of you. And that can look a lot of different ways. It can be something that you do for yourself. It can be connecting to somebody else. It can be healthy distraction, but giving yourself the space for that. So for people that are not in the midst of a real crisis here, giving yourself some space every day to just check in, and no matter what is present for you, so it doesn't have to have anything to do with any of that, but whatever is present for you, maybe giving yourself even just a minute to journal, to just write whatever comes to mind, because writing is processing. It's energetic movement. And that can be so incredibly valuable, especially if you feel like you don't necessarily have any specific thoughts or feelings about something. But even if you do, it can be really beneficial. Just letting yourself write. It's so incredibly important. So please this is your reminder. This is your opportunity. This is the universe telling you to check in with yourself, to honor what is present. And if you know that there's something that you want or need, do not talk yourself out of it. Please do not tell yourself you shouldn't need it, you shouldn't want it, that it's weakness, that because it can't be met, you're a fool for needing it. Do not judge in any way. Do not talk yourself out of whatever that might be. Try to implement something that can help you meet that, even if it's just in a very small way. Connection is so important, always, and especially when there's a lot of layers there. And that connection can look different. Maybe you have the opportunity to connect with somebody where you can really talk about what's going on and what is present. And even if you don't have that, or you don't feel like you're in a place where you can use that right now, even just connecting with somebody to know that you're not alone. So you don't even have to talk about all of that stuff. It can just be a quick chat with somebody or a quick message back and forth with somebody to help you remember that you're not alone in the world. And of course, if you have the capacity, time, or resources, or you feel safe with the people around you to engage more, to connect around this, to be able to explore and talk about it, that's great. And I absolutely encourage that. But I know a lot of times, especially when all of those layers are there, we tend to pull back. So please do not do that. Um, Wherever you are in this, remember, try to remind yourself about those layers of vulnerability. You're not weak. You're not taking steps back in your healing. You're not incapable of healing. If you're struggling, it's not a sign that you're not meant to heal. It's not a sign that you're never going to be able to heal. It's not a sign that you don't matter or your experience doesn't matter. There are a lot of valid reasons, so significantly valid reasons, that you might be returning to old coping mechanisms. You might be shut down. You might be really struggling. You might be having flashbacks. You might be struggling with boundaries. That's always a possibility as a survivor. But when there are more things that create vulnerability, it is natural that we find ourselves struggling more. So this is a reminder that there's not something wrong with you, and that we all have needs, and those needs can vary, and they all matter. And it's important, it's part of our healing to acknowledge that, to try to do what we can to have those needs and desires met, even if it's just for a moment. And you deserve that. If there is something in particular that you would like me to talk about in regards to all of this or any of this, let me know in the comments and I am happy to do so. But like I said, I know there's a lot of people talking about different aspects of it, even some therapists that are talking about it, but I've not heard anybody really talking about just kind of the reminder that we all need at times, including myself. I need to remember to take care of myself. I need to remember that, to kind of affirm, I guess, that the feelings that I have about so many different things right now are natural and can even be positive, even though the feeling itself would be labeled as not a positive feeling. And we all need those reminders at times. So thank you for being here. Let me know what came up for you. Share in the comments. None of us are alone in any of this. And all of our experiences matter, no matter what they might look like. Thanks for being here. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.